Hello everyone. Thank you for tuning in to this YouTube video. I appreciate it very much. This is a follow-up to a video I made months ago called James Gunn Superman Will Fly Low. That was back in about June and it is October now. At this point, the box office returns for James Gunn Superman has come in and they are pretty underwhelming. James Gunn's 2025 Superman has only made 615 million, which is honestly subpar, and it's even less than the Superman movie before that, Man of Steel. As I said before, James Gunn does not understand the character of Superman, and the lesser box office returns of Superman 2025 reflect that. Like I said before, Man of Steel on Superman movie, I am also not a fan of because just like James Gunn's Superman, Man of Steel is a improper portrayal of Superman. Man of Steel made $670 million, which is still more than James Gunn's Superman. And this was in 2013, which is 12 years ago. So if you adjust for inflation, Man of Steel makes about 920 million, according to some estimates, maybe even up to 930 $1 million by today's inflation standards, which, wow, that is insane. That's closer to $1 billion, and that's hundreds of millions of dollars more than James Gunn's Superman. James Gunn tries to justify his Superman 2025's lesser box office return with a really ignorant and outright foolish statement by saying Superman isn't well known in some parts of the world, which, if you maybe consider every single country, might be true, but in well known international box offices like China, Superman is a well known character. Many people in China know who Superman is. They just decided not to see the movie, which affected the box office. It was not about awareness of Superman's character. Many people in key parts of the international box office are well aware who Superman is. People just didn't want to see this movie. And James Gunn came up with a really bad excuse, which further demonstrates James Gunn's ignorance regarding Superman. Because if we want to talk about characters who aren't well known and how that could influence the box office, how come the Suicide Squad, the 2016 version, not the James Gunn version, because the James Gunn version of Superman Super Squad, sorry, tongue twister, Suicide Squad made less money. The Suicide Squad, the 2016 version, made $749 million. And besides Harley Quinn, many of these characters on the Suicide Squad are not well known. Yet it made more than Man of Steel and James Gunn's Superman. So how come it made more money than both of those movies if many of the characters in the Suicide Squad are not well known? And to top it all off, how come Aquaman, who is far less popular, and far less well known as Superman, made over $1 billion, one of the highest grossing DC films of all time? Over $1 billion. By James Gunn's logic, this should have made less money than Superman, yet Aquaman is one of the highest grossing DC films ever. James Gunn demonstrates and articulates his disdain and ignorance. I know I say ignorant a lot because James Gunn is very ignorant when it comes to Superman, and that is something to be emphasized. He says that Superman is a big galoot whose weakness is that he doesn't want to hurt a living soul. First of all, Superman is not a galoot. He is intelligent, strategic, and very valorous and powerful. But James Gunn's Superman, which is in the 2025 movie, is not. He is shown to be not very capable, rash, and emotional, as I will demonstrate in these clips.
Off the record.
You have to say off the record.
Okay, well, not the part where I... It's just a thing I came up with that I thought I'd try to work into the next interview.
This is on the record, Superman.
Okay, well, not the part where I said that.
Yes, that part.
No, that part was an aside. That was off the record.
You have to say off the record beforehand, not after.
Why are you being like this?
It's fine.
Now, this right here shows a significant flaw in the portrayal of Superman as directed by James Gunn. Superman, his secret identity, Clark Kent, is a journalist, so he should not be tripped up in Lois Lane's interview about on the record and off the record. Clark Kent is a very well-versed journalist, and he should be able to easily articulate and distinguish the difference between on the record and off the record, seeing as how he is a very experienced member of the press. And another thing is that this version of Superman tends to have his values undermined by different characters in the film. Instead of being a leader, he tends to have his values ignored and defied by the other characters.
And no significant injuries.
Did you interact at all with the president?
There were no casualties and no significant... And I showed up and told them that wasn't right. And smashed some tanks and things, and a couple of planes and some other stuff. There were no casualties and no significant injuries.
This turns out not to be true later, as shown by the actions of Hawkgirl. But before we get to that, I just want to go over more examples about how Superman is compromised in this movie and has his values undermined by the other characters. You have Crypto in this movie, who has a tendency to not listen and be disobedient to Superman. And then, you have Superman compromised because he tends to be weaker than he should be. He's shown that he is not very capable against superhuman threats. In fact, the strongest he seems to be is when he's fighting against humans to stop the invasion, because when it comes to superhuman threats, Superman tends to struggle in this movie very badly. Now, in the kaiju scene, Superman and the Justice Gang fights against it, and Superman requested that this creature not be killed and that it be taken back alive. Yet his request is ignored by the Justice Gang, and they undermine his values by killing the creature. And in reference to the early clip about there not being significant casualties during this invasion, Hawkgirl defies Superman's statement by killing the president of Bordavia, which makes the criticism of Superman intervening in this conflict seem justified.
You are too delicate and weak, like Superman.
I'm not like Superman.
See, that was not heroic what she did. She decided to get involved in this delicate situation on Superman's behalf and murder a leader, which would severely complicate the situation and make things even worse. And in this scene here, we have Superman sitting there and talking to Lois Lane while the Justice Gang fights a imp in Metropolis.
That's just some dimensional imp. They've got that handled. I was looking for the dog.
Now, I think that this is really bad for Superman, for him to live in Metropolis and let this creature rampage and not get involved really shows a lack of leadership and courage on his part. Superman should be front in line fighting this creature instead of letting other heroes that are weaker than him and don't live in Metropolis handle him. As I said, this is a very compromised version of Superman that does not embody the valor and virtue of the true iconic version of Superman. And here we have this speech, which pretty much exemplifies everything wrong with this version of Superman.
Is where you've always been wrong about me, Lex. I'm as human as anyone. I love, I get scared. I wake up every morning and despite not knowing what to do, I put one foot in front of the other and I try to make the best choices I can. I screw up all the time. But that is being human. And that's my greatest strength. And someday, I hope, for the sake of the world, you understand that it's yours too.
Oh, that.
As I said, this exemplifies everything wrong with this version of Superman. First of all, the character's name is Superman. He is supposed to be a superior version of us on almost every level, mentally, physically, emotionally. And he is supposed to be a leader, a shining example. He is not supposed to be a reflection of our flaws and misgivings as humans. He is supposed to be a guiding light, a paragon of what humans could be and should be. But no, James Gunn wants to compromise Superman and bring him down to our level instead of him being the iconic example he should be. And then we have Supergirl showing up near the end of the movie, calling Superman the B word and being a crass and foolish drunk. As I said, this version of Superman is not accurate to the character. It is a deliberate misunderstanding, and the box office returns show that this Superman is subpar and not up to standard. Now, I plan on making more videos about James Gunn's DC universe and why it's not good. And thank you all for watching.